The story is about a haunted school, where an innocent schoolgirl gets bullied by some maniacs. After her death, she returns and takes revenge from her bullies. Everything begins on an ordinary school morning as a group of students make their way to class. Among them is Mean, one of the most popular boys in school. On his way, he accidentally bumps into a beautiful girl. She looks up at him with a slight smile before walking ahead. Her name is G. However, before Mean can process their encounter, a teacher interrupts them, reminding students that they should never be late. Strangely, despite arriving late, G is let off without punishment. But when Mean walks in, the teacher reacts differently, writing down his name and class as a warning. This teacher also happens to be Mean's homeroom teacher. Inside the school, Mean meets another latecomer, Hoon, who assures him not to worry, claiming that the teacher is actually very kind despite his strict behavior. During class, the teacher introduces Mean as a new transfer student and explains that he had to repeat a year due to an injury he got while practicing taekwondo. Just then, the door opens, and a stunning girl named Yu walks in. The moment Mean lays eyes on her, his heart races. But before he can admire her for too long, the teacher catches him staring and scolds him, telling him to stop daydreaming and take a seat. That's when something strange happens. Mean notices a shadowy figure with long hair creeping toward Yu. His instincts take over, and he rushes to protect her. But to his horror, no one else can see what he just saw. The entire class stares at him, confused, and soon bursts into laughter. His teacher, thinking Mean is just making up excuses to get closer to Yu, shakes his head in disappointment. Later, when Mean tries to talk to Yu, she completely ignores him, as if he doesn't even exist. Meanwhile, Hoon, the girl who had been friendly to Mean earlier, gets targeted by a school bully named Day. Unable to just stand by, Mean steps in, demanding that Day return what he stole from her. But instead of backing down, Day mockingly bites into a piece of bread and hands it back to Mean, angering him further. Just before things escalate into a full-blown fight, the popular girl Yu arrives. She orders Day to back off and leave the innocent students alone. However, she quickly becomes disappointed in him. Day is dating Yu's elder sister Hanso. She scolds him for wasting his time bullying innocent students, instead of visiting his injured girlfriend at the hospital. As Yu leaves after settling the matter, Mean notices she left her diary behind. Meanwhile, elsewhere in town, a strange woman enters a butcher shop, asking for chicken meat. The butcher immediately recognizes her as a shaman and refuses to sell her anything, hurling insults at her in public. Before leaving, the shaman warns him not to eat what he is about to consume. Dismissing her words as nonsense, the butcher laughs it off. But moments later, he begins to choke and vomits a live frog. Back at school, Mean curiously flips through Yu's forgotten diary. Inside, he finds an old photograph of two young girls. Before he can process it, a sudden gust of wind blows the photo out of his hands, leading him to a secluded part of the school. There, he stumbles upon an empty classroom with a single burnt-up doll placed atop a desk. Suddenly, G appears beside him. Smiling mysteriously, she reveals that she knows who he really is, the nephew of a famous exorcist. She tells him that, unlike her, who can only sense spirits, Mean has the ability to see them. But Mean refuses to accept this truth, insisting she has the wrong person. G, however, remains confident. She has seen him before and knows he is special. But instead of pressing him further, she simply asks for his help. Sensing his hesitation, she doesn't push him but instead guides him back to his classroom without alerting the school guards, who are patrolling the restricted area. As Mean quietly slips away, he cannot shake the feeling that something terrible is about to unfold. At the same time, a boy named Gon aggressively corners Hoon, asking if she's free tonight. Even though she repeatedly refuses, he insists that she meet him, saying he'll be waiting. Kim, Hoon's friend, watches from a distance with a worried expression. Frustrated, the boy returns to his group, upset that he couldn't convince Hoon. But in reality, he never intended anything good, just like the other girls he had tormented before, especially Kim. Laughing, he plays a recording of her, amused by his own cruelty. Meanwhile, Mean spots his crush Yu talking to a teacher. Remembering that he still has her diary, he hurries after her but accidentally bumps into Kim on the way. Ignoring her completely, he rushes forward, determined to catch up. Elsewhere, two people arrive at the shaman's house, anxiously asking if her daughter is home. Their concern is interrupted by the sudden arrival of a man in a luxury car. The moment the shaman sees him, she grows tense and quickly retreats inside. The man is Mr. Mu, the country's most powerful exorcist and the leader of the shamans. At school, Ji meets with the principal, Lady Su, who informs her that Mr. Mu has called a meeting to capture an evil spirit. However, when Ji mentions that she recently met Min, the successor of Mr. Mu, Su warns her to be careful. She urges Ji to protect Min at all costs, as his ability to see spirits makes him a prime target for evil gods. Later that evening, Yu visits her sister at the hospital. There, it's revealed that her sister had recently attempted suicide. But more disturbingly, the doctors believe she might be possessed by an evil spirit. Afterwards, while searching through her bag, Yu suddenly realizes her diary is missing. Meanwhile, at home, Min finally finds some time to read Yu's diary. Just as he begins, a loud thud startles him. Looking up, he sees a crow crashing into his window. When he steps outside to check, he finds a dead crow on the ground, and above him, the sky is filled with a swarm of crows circling his house. At the same time, Gon, one of the school bullies, arrives at their secret hideout expecting to meet his friends for a night of drinking and meet Hoon. But when he gets there, the place is empty. Thinking they might be playing a prank on him, he calls out for them, but no one answers. Meanwhile, Hoon and Kim are sitting together in their classroom, waiting to meet Gon. Hoon insists that Gon asked her to meet him in the storeroom, but Kim remains skeptical, believing that he's just luring her out to bully her in private. At the same time, all of Gon's friends suddenly show up, scaring him. However, it makes him mad for playing a stupid, unnecessary pranks on him. Elsewhere, the school principal meets with Mr. Mu, handing him a file containing the details of a recently deceased schoolgirl, a girl who died in a school fire. It turns out she was the daughter of the shaman woman seen earlier. Mr. Mu confirms what they both feared: the strange supernatural events happening at the school because it was built on cursed land, a place filled with evil spirits. At the same time, Min, as careless as ever, buys a gift wrapper from a convenience store and discreetly sneaks back into the school. The moment he enters, he unknowingly breaks one of the exorcism seals placed by Mr. Mu to trap spirit. Ji, sensing a spiritual disturbance, immediately alerts the principal. Right then, she also spots a schoolgirl running through the halls, a girl who shouldn't be there. As Min wanders around the school, searching for answers about what he saw earlier, he suddenly feels a strange presence behind him. Turning around, he sees a school guard standing there. But something feels off. As he looks closer, a chilling realization strikes him. The guard is an evil spirit. Before he can react, the spirit lunges at him with malicious intent. Terrified, Min runs for his life, desperately searching for a place to hide. Meanwhile, the bullies, who had been waiting to ambush Hoon, fall asleep in their hideout. One of them wakes up and nudges Gon, urging him to call Hoon so they can mess with her. But when they try calling her, the phone doesn't work. Frustrated, they look around and notice something unsettling: a burnt-up doll sitting on a nearby desk. A wave of dread washes over them as they realize that somehow, they have mysteriously ended up inside the very room where the schoolgirl died in the fire. At the same time, Yu arrives at the school, hoping to find her missing diary. She searches every corner, but she can't quite remember where she left it. Unbeknownst to her, she is unknowingly putting herself in grave danger. Meanwhile, Old Man Mu and the principal arrive at the house of the strange shaman woman. However, as they step inside, they find the place completely abandoned. Suddenly, a car engine roars to life. The shaman woman has hijacked Mu's luxury car and is fleeing the scene. As Mu watches her drive off, he hears an eerie noise from outside. Rushing to investigate, he finds the principal in danger, struggling against an evil spirit. Without hesitation, Mu summons his divine magic and banishes the spirit, saving the principal. But as the spirit fades away, he realizes something shocking: it had been protecting the shaman woman. With a grim expression, Mu speaks. She's trying to bring her daughter back from the dead. Back at the cursed room, the bullies desperately try to escape, but nothing they do works. Panic sets in as they realize they might be trapped until morning. Suddenly, Gon starts laughing, an awful, unnatural laugh that doesn't stop. The others stare at him in confusion before day snaps, kicking him in frustration. But Gon's laughter only grows louder, turning into something inhuman. Elsewhere, Mu and the principal finally uncover the shaman's true intentions. She has been worshipping the evil gods, attempting to revive her dead daughter. Worse, Mu suspects she plans to sacrifice other students to complete the ritual. Realizing time is running out, he instructs the principal to return to the school and capture the spirit of the shaman's daughter before it's too late. Back at the school, Yu ventures deeper into the halls, unaware of the horrors lurking nearby. At the same time, Min cautiously steps out of his hiding place, trying to escape before the evil guard reappears. Meanwhile, Gon suddenly stops laughing and clutches his stomach, his face twisting in pain. He collapses to his knees, vomiting uncontrollably. Day assumes it's from the kick earlier, but then, Gon doesn't stop. His body convulses violently as blood pours from his mouth. The other bullies watch in horror as Gon's body goes limp. One of them wakes up from his sleep and, seeing Gon, quickly runs out of the room. Just then, the doll in the cursed room bursts into flames. In that moment, a terrifying realization dawns upon us. Gon's death was a sacrifice, and each of the bullies represents a cursed doll. Elsewhere, Mu prepares to summon the evil gods, desperate to prevent the reincarnation of the shaman's daughter before more lives are lost. At the same time, Hoon and Kim are sitting in their classroom. Kim insists they should head towards the etiquette room, claiming that she left something inside and needs to retrieve it. But Hoon, sensing the eerie atmosphere, urges that they should leave, offering to give her anything in return. A horrifying truth dawns upon Hoon. Kim isn't real. She's a spirit who wants to take her body. Elsewhere in the school, Min encounters a strange schoolgirl wandering alone. Something about her posture feels unnatural. As he steps closer, her face suddenly distorts, twisting into something monstrous, her mouth opening unnaturally wide as she lunges toward him. She wants to eat him alive. Panicked, Min runs for his life. In his frantic escape, he collides with Hoon, who is also running in fear. The impact knocks her glasses off, and for a moment, they stare at each other, shocked to see one another at school so late at night. Before they can speak, Kim appears behind them, completely normal, as if nothing had happened. With a calm smile, she asks Min for help. She claims she left something inside the etiquette room and needs him to crawl through the vent to unlock the door from inside. Hoon watches as Min hesitates. To her shock, Kim suddenly turns toward her and gives her an eerie smile, a silent warning. Without another word, Hoon turns away and leaves the two alone. The school bullies were in a state of panic, desperately searching for a way out. Every exit was locked from the outside, leaving them trapped within the eerie school grounds. Among them, a girl whispered that she needed to use the restroom. She asked Day to accompany her since the area was dark, but he refused. Instead, Du, the innocent one in the group, agreed to go with her and waited outside while she went in. After some time, Day called Du back, telling him they needed to focus on escaping. Reluctantly, Du left the girl alone in the restroom. As she stood there, a strange noise echoed from outside. Curious, she bent down slightly to look under the stall door. The silence was overwhelming until, without warning, a girl's head appeared right in front of her. Her scream echoed through the halls, sending the bullies rushing toward the restroom. When they arrived, she was nowhere to be found. As they searched, their horror grew. They found her inside the toilet seat. Terror-stricken, they ran for their lives. Meanwhile, Ji was searching the school for the restless spirit. Unaware of the danger lurking behind her, she was suddenly attacked by an evil force. Unable to see spirits, she was powerless against it. At the same time, Min crawled through the vent as Kim had requested. As he moved further, he unknowingly broke another divine seal. When he finally reached the other side, he opened the etiquette room door, expecting to find Kim waiting, but she was gone. Before he could react, the school guard spirit appeared, its hollow eyes fixated on him. The spirit marched forward with malicious intent. Before it could reach him, Hoon appeared and dragged Min away just in time. She led him into a storeroom where they hid. Something was strange about Hoon. She didn't seem to realize that the school guard was a ghost. To her, he was just a normal security guard, patrolling the building. Elsewhere in the school, Yu continued searching for her lost diary. She finally reached her classroom, but as she stepped inside, she noticed a woman sitting alone in the dark. The remaining bullies were still trying to escape. No matter how hard they tried, the lock wouldn't budge. A sinister presence crept up behind them, and suddenly, one of them was grabbed by dark, slimy tentacles. He was lifted into the air, his body crushed before being dropped lifelessly to the ground. Day, in a frantic effort to survive, managed to force the lock open. Just as he thought he was free, something grabbed him from behind, killing him, and dragged away into the darkness. Meanwhile, the head exorcist, Mu, was locked in a spiritual battle, summoning divine forces to stop the shaman's ritual. If he failed, more students would die. Back at the school, Yu suddenly woke up. She had no memory of falling asleep. Confused, she looked down at her desk and saw her name carved into the wood. A chilling presence lingered nearby. Min, tired of running and hiding, decided it was time to leave the school. But to his surprise, Hoon refused to come with him, choosing to stay behind. As he made his way through the halls, he ran into Ji. The moment she saw him, she realized the truth. He was the one who had broken the divine seals, releasing the evil spirits. Min, unaware of his mistake, was confused by her reaction. When he mentioned meeting two girls, Kim and Hoon, Ji was shocked. She revealed that Kim had died a year ago in the fire. Min was left frozen in fear as the reality of his situation sank in. Ji began to suspect that Hoon might also be a ghost. She warned Min to be careful as they searched for her. As they stepped outside, Min suddenly saw a large group of evil spirits marching toward them. Although Ji couldn't see them, she sensed their presence and used her divine weapon to destroy some of them. However, before she could eliminate all of them, one of the spirits attacked Min, biting him. They ran for safety, using a Hindu religious sign to block the spirits from following them. But to stop the spirits completely, they had to find Hanso, Yu's sister. Deciding to cover more ground, they split up to search every classroom and hallway. As Min wandered through the school, he saw Yu standing on the rooftop railing. Without thinking, he rushed upstairs to save her. But when Ji arrived, she realized it was just an illusion, a trap to lure Min to his death. Just then, they noticed lights turning on at the swimming pool area. Without hesitation, they ran toward it. At the pool, Min came face to face with the spirit of Kim. She taunted him, showing him Yu struggling in the water, on the verge of drowning. Kim tried to blackmail him into jumping into the pool to save Yu. Just as Min was about to dive in, Ji arrived and warned him that it was a trap. Kim only wanted him to break the last remaining divine water seal. But despite Ji's warning, Min couldn't ignore Yu's suffering and jumped in to save her. The moment he did, the divine seal shattered, putting everyone in greater danger. Ji was devastated, realizing she had failed to protect the last divine seal. Meanwhile, another sacrificial scroll burned, signaling another step in the shaman's dark ritual. Kim's spirit suddenly lashed out at Ji, intending to kill her. The principal witnessed the attack but was powerless to stop it. At the last moment, the head exorcist stepped in, using his divine power to shield Ji. In doing so, he sacrificed himself. The principal managed to bring Kim back to her senses and explained that the exorcist had saved her. But Ji quickly became worried when she noticed that Yu and Min were no longer inside the pool. Meanwhile, Min found himself inside a vision of Kim's past. He saw a younger Kim with her mother, speaking to an old lady who told her mother that nothing could save Kim. He watched as Kim was bullied relentlessly by her classmates, who despised her because her mother was a shaman. Because of this, Kim grew to hate her mother as well. Eventually, Kim's mother enrolled her in a new school, one protected by head exorcist Mu. For the first time, Kim had hoped that she could escape the bullying and start fresh. Loud screams suddenly made Min realize he needs to save Yu. He frantically searched for Yu but soon encountered Kim again, this time with Hanso, Yu's sister. Hanso thanked Kim for casting a spell that made Dae ask her out. However, this situation had led to trouble. Dae's ex-girlfriend had become furious, believing Hanso had stolen him. She was determined to take revenge. Kim had overheard the bullies talking and even noticed Min standing nearby, something that should have been impossible. She met with Hanso and warned her not to attend Dae's birthday party, fearing something bad might happen. But instead of listening, Hanso became suspicious, believing Kim wanted Dae for herself. Min noticed a shadowy presence moving in the distance. Following it, he arrived at the science lab, the place where Kim had been murdered. As he watched the past unfold, he saw the bullies mocking Kim for warning Hanso. They forcefully separated the two girls, bullying Kim even more. But then they realized Hanso had been watching. Furious, they chased after her, leaving Kim alone in the locked science lab. Inside the lab, an ominous force suddenly appeared. Without warning, flames erupted around the room, trapping Kim. The fire spread rapidly, consuming everything. Min watched in horror as Kim met her tragic end. Back in the present, the principal realized that the curse wasn't over. Kim's mother had not yet completed her vengeance. Hanso was still alive in the hospital. At that moment, Kim's mother arrived at the hospital. Filled with hatred, she believed Hanso was responsible for her daughter's death and intended to kill her. When Kim's mother first saw her daughter's burned body, she was overcome with grief. But when she noticed Hanso, her sorrow turned to rage. She lashed out, blaming her for everything. Yu, who was also present, finally learned the full truth. Her sister had told the bullies that Kim had snitched on them. This had indirectly led to Kim's death. Knowing this, Yu felt no sympathy for Hanso. Min, however, wasn't convinced. He tried to prove that Hanso wasn't truly responsible. But before he could, the situation took an even darker turn. They spot that Hanso lied to the police and had already given a false confession. She claimed that Kim had been practicing black magic in the science lab and had died due to her own mistake, not because of the bullies. Despite this, Min refused to believe that Hanso was purely at fault. He had read her diary, which originally belonged to her, and discovered a hidden confession. In it, Hanso had admitted her guilt and deep remorse over what had happened to Kim. Overwhelmed by her sins, she had deliberately fallen from the building, seeking to atone and reunite with Kim in the afterlife. Determined to bring closure to the past, Min and Yu decided to return to the real world together and resolve everything by delivering the diary to Kim's spirit. However, just as they were about to leave, Min realized something and, at the last moment, pushed Yu back into the real world alone. He chose to stay behind to complete the task himself. Meanwhile, the principal arrived at the hospital to protect Hanso. There, he encountered his own brother but soon discovered the shocking truth. This man was not his real brother. He had been adopted by their grandfather, head exorcist Mu, solely to protect Min from the evil gods. Yu returned to the real world, only to learn that Kim's mother had arrived at the hospital, intent on killing Hanso. Just as she was about to strike, the principal intervened, and a fierce battle broke out between them. At the same time, Min realized that the figure he had been speaking to wasn't really his brother. It was yet another illusion cast by Kim's spirit to deceive him. Instead of fighting, Min spoke directly to Kim, reminding her that the vengeful entity she had become was not her true self. He recalled how she had always been kind and had only wished for a normal life. He told her that the being standing before him was nothing more than a demon, not the real Kim. Back at the hospital, just as Kim's mother was about to strike the final blow, the real Kim appeared. At first, her mother was confused, but as the truth settled in, she realized that this was truly her daughter's spirit. Kim then spoke to her mother, reminiscing about the hardships they had endured. She confessed how, during her life, she had resented her mother and the burden of their existence. However, she admitted how terrible she had felt for speaking ill of the only person who had ever cared for her. Apologizing sincerely, she thanked her mother for all her sacrifices. In a final moment of reconciliation, she embraced her mother one last time. As Kim's soul gently faded away, the vengeful spirit that had possessed her transformed into a monstrous form. At that moment, Min was granted the divine weapon of his late grandfather, head exorcist Mu. With this sacred power, he destroyed the demon once and for all. Overcome with grief and regret, Kim's mother, now fully aware of her mistakes, chose to end her own suffering. She jumped from the hospital rooftop, bringing her tragic life to an end. Min finally returned to the real world. Ji, who had been anxiously waiting for him, felt an unusual worry, something she herself did not fully understand. Meanwhile, Yu was relieved and grateful, thanking Min for saving her. Their warm interaction unknowingly sparked a hint of jealousy in Ji. Min, noticing this, turned to Ji and sincerely thanked her as well. He told her that her voice, calling his name while he was trapped in Kim's memories, had helped him find his way back. Elsewhere, Hoon woke up unharmed inside a mysterious shrine, her fate still unknown. Soon after, Yu received a call from the hospital. Her sister, Hanso, had finally awakened from her long sleep. Without hesitation, she rushed to meet her. Left alone with Ji, Min handed her a small gift, a simple but meaningful gesture that symbolized a new beginning. As they stood together, it marked the quiet restart of a faded love story.